Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 3. Yamaraj instructs his messengers, verse number 20 and 21. Swayambhur Naradah Shambhu Kumaraha Kapilo Manuhu Prahalado Janako Bhishmo Balirvayasakirvayam Dvadashaite Vijanimo Dharmam Bhagavatam Bhataha Guhyam Vishuddham Durbodham Yam Gyatva Amritam Ashnute. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Lord Brahma, Bhagavan Narada, Lord Shiva, the four Kumaras, Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, Swayambhuva Manu, Prahalad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, Grandfather Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Shukdev Goswami, and I myself know the real religious principles. My dear servants, this transcendental religious principle, which is known as Bhagavata Dharma, or surrender unto the Supreme Lord and love for Him, is uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. It is very confidential and difficult for ordinary human beings to understand. But if by chance one fortunately understands it, he is immediately liberated, and thus he returns home back to Godhead. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna refers to Bhagavata Dharma as the most confidential religious principle. Sarva Guhyatamam Guhyad Guhyataram. Krishna says to Arjuna, because you are my very dear friend, I am explaining to you the most confidential religion. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Give up all other duties and surrender unto me. One may ask, if this principle is very rarely understood, what is the use of it? In answer, Yamaraj states herein that this religious principle is understandable if one follows the parampara system of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the four Kumaras, and the other standard authorities. There are 4 lines of disciplic succession, one from Lord Brahma, one from Lord Shiva, one from Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, and one from the Kumaras. The disciplic succession from Lord Brahma is called the Brahma Sampradaya. The succession from Lord Shiva, Shambhu, is called Rudra Sampradaya. The one from the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi ji, is called Shri Sampradaya. And the one from the Kumaras is called Kumara Sampradaya. One must take shelter of one of these 4 Sampradayas in order to understand the most confidential religious system. In the Padma Purana it is said, Sampradaya vihina ye mantraste nisfala mataha. If one does not follow the 4 recognized disciplic successions, his mantra or initiation is useless. In the present day, there are many upper sampradayas or sampradayas which are not bona fide, which have no link to authorities like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the Kumaras, or Lakshmi. People are misguided by such sampradayas. The Shastras say that being initiated in such a sampradaya is a useless waste of time, for it will never enable one to understand the real religious principles. So this chapter, Yamaraj instructs his messengers. This is a very important verse. We have come across this verse in several places. Prabhupada quotes this in Srimad Bhagavatam also. And in this verse, Yamaraj is telling his servants, his messengers, Yamadutas, what is real religious principle and in whose custody these real religious principles lie. Who is the owner of these real religious principles? There has to be an owner of one knowledge. So who owns it? So this verse says, Swayambhur Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapilo Manuhu, these 6 plus another 6, Prahalado Janako Bhishmo Balir Vayasakhi, Prahalada Janaka Bhishma Balir Vayasakhi, Shukdev and Vayam, that is we, referring to himself, Yamaraj. Dwada Shaite Vijanimo, Dwada Shaite, these 12 people were known as Mahajanas. They are not ordinary persons, Jana, they are Mahajanas. Vijanimo, they know. And what do they know? Dharmam, Bhagavatam, Bhataha. He's telling his Bhataha, his servants, these 12 people know Dharmam. Dharmam here is translated as, Prabhupada is writing, real religious principles. Dharmam is not just religious principles, because religious principles is misunderstood. What is people have their own conception of what is religion, religious principles. Real religious principles. And elsewhere, Prabhupada is writing transcendental religious principles. Real religious principles, transcendental religious principles, the most confidential religious principles. So this Bhagavata is not just some religion or some religious principle. It is real religious principle, confidential religious principles, transcendental religious principles. This is what we are studying every day morning. This is what Srila Prabhupada has given us. It is not an ordinary thing that we are studying. Just like if you study something, you take great pride. I am doing an education, a higher education. This is the highest education for the humankind. The highest, Bhagavatam Dharmam. And Bhagavatam, Dharmam, Bhagavatam, real religious principles, Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam meaning is which teach a person how to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this Bhagavata we are studying to understand how to love God. It is not an ordinary thing. First of all, to understand God itself is so difficult. But we are talking of understanding God, establishing a relationship with God and loving God. Because this is Amritam Ashnute. This is what we want to, this is what is real enjoyment, real pleasure. Amritam, this is nectar. To understand God and to love God is Amritam, Ashnute. Ashnute means this nectar is not just some philosophy, oh it's very nectarian. It is a fact. Ashnute means it's a fact. You can actually experience it. If you know this Dharman Bhagavatam. But, he says another thing in verse number 21. Bhataha, that this Dharman Bhagavatam, the most confidential, real, transcendental religious principle is Guhyam, very confidential. And so these are the characteristics of Bhagavata Dharma. Three characteristics are given here. First is Guhyam, it is very confidential. Second is Vishuddham, it is transcendental, beyond the three modes of material nature, beyond this material nature. We are all in this three modes of material nature, but this Bhagavata Dharma is beyond the three modes of material nature. It is Vishuddham, transcendental, pure. And Durbodham. Durbodham means, Bodha means to understand. Durbodha means very difficult to understand. Although this is the highest principle that we are talking about, but it is very difficult to understand. But, Yajñātva, if you can understand it, this real religious principle, then Amritam Ashnute, you will be able to experience, enjoy, relish Amrita, nectar in this life. So this is the verse. So, the first thing, as I was mentioning, that we have to understand that this Bhagavata religion is not just any ordinary religion. It is, as Prabhupada writes, it's a real religious principles. It's the highest religious principle. There's nothing higher than Bhagavata. We know the whole story of how Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled by Srila Vasudev. Vasudev compiled all the Vedic scriptures, all the Vedas, all the Upanishads, all the Puranas, everything Vedas, everything. And after compiling everything that was possible for him, he still did not find peace and happiness. He was not satisfied at heart. And he was wondering, why am I not finding peace and happiness within myself? Because I have written everything that I know. It was at that point when he had not yet written the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Narad Muni comes, because he was deeply meditating, contemplating why he's not feeling happy in spite of writing everything. And then Narad Muni comes and explains to him that you have not given humanity real religious principles. People generally have a tendency to enjoy, to gratify their senses. And you have encouraged them in their sense gratification in the garb of religion. People are naturally inclined to it. So if you want real peace, amritam ashnute, if you want to experience real peace, you have to give them the real religious principles, which is loving devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, hearing from Him attentively, and serving Him with love and devotion, because this is only in this way can the soul completely cleanse his heart and find satisfaction and peace, because we are suffering because of our disconnection with God, and unless and until we connect ourselves with God, which is only by the process of bhakti yoga, you will not find peace and happiness. So talk about Bhagavata Dharma. Bhagavata Dharma is the Dharma which talks about Bhakti Yoga, and we know all those things. And that's how Srila Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, the real religious principles. And that is the reason why Vyasadeva, when he starts the Srimad Bhagavatam, how does he start the Srimad Bhagavatam? Dharma projita kaitavotra. You see something very striking. The beginning of the book, it is written, all cheating religions are kicked out. He uses a strong word, kicked out. So why? Because until that time, all other religion except Bhagavata religion is defined, is told by Srila Vyasadeva as cheating religion. Now this is something very, what do you mean cheating religion? All other religions are cheating religion? Yes. It is cheating religion. Now what is the meaning of the word cheating? If someone has to cheat someone, that means that someone was supposed to deliver something, was supposed to give something, but instead of giving that, he has given something else. He has given something else which is of low value. If somebody has to give someone some money and he doesn't give that amount, he gives a very less amount, or he has to give some product, he gives a duplicate product, you call that cheating, right? So how are other religions cheating, and why Bhagavata is the real religious principles? Because here it is defined, what is Bhagavata Dharma? Bhagavata Dharma means that Dharma which will teach a human being how to love God. Loving God is real religion. Because God is our Father. He is our eternal Father. All these relationships in this material world are all temporary relationship. Our eternal relationship is with the Supreme Lord. And we are eternal soul. So for the eternal soul to be eternally happy, he has to connect himself with the eternal Father. Very simple. Just like a child in the material world, a child will be happy only if he is with the Father. Now, if the child has not met his father and he's suffering, and different people are promising him different things, but meeting the father, isn't the child getting cheated? The child's happiness is to go back to his father. Everything else the father will provide. You don't have to provide the child anything. Father will take care. So in the same way, if we do not reestablish our connection with the Supreme Father, Krishna, which can happen only by the Bhagavata process, by this Bhagavata Dharma, it is all cheating religion. It is not real religious principles. So this Bhagavata Dharma is talking about real religious principles, getting love of God. So how do we get? So it is mentioned here in the verse. What is this Bhagavata Dharma? This Bhagavata Dharma is all about hearing. If you simply hear about God, then that goal of obtaining love of God will automatically come. Not only automatically come, it is already there inside us, because by coming in contact with this material world, we have become covered with a layer of material dirt, and that is not just a small layer, it's a very big layer, very hard layer. Because of that, that love of God which is already inside us is completely covered and it is not manifested. So Bhagavata Dharma is that Dharma which says that simply by hearing about God, continuously, repeatedly, with perseverance, chanting, reading, hearing, by doing this, the material covering which has covered our love of God will be removed, will be dissolved. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabhu Noy Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Koroy Uday. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. We are talking about this love of God. Real Bhagavata is love of God. So how do we get this? This Nitya Siddha. It is said that this love of God is not that we have to actually go and obtain. It is Nitya Siddha. It is eternally inside our heart. Sadhya Kabhu Noy. We don't have to go and get it from someone. We have to always, we have to remember these things. I am not trying to struggle to get something in spiritual. It is already there inside. But the contamination, the conditioning is so deep. We are so captivated by this material energy that we have completely become bewildered and we have forgotten everything. Just like a big wealth, you are the son of a rich father and your father has crores and crores of rupees. So it's already yours because you are the natural heir to your father. But you have forgotten. And we are trying to get something. You don't have to get something, it's already there with you. So this love of Godhead, which is the Bhagavata Dharma, is already there within us. Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte. But if you hear about God, about Krishna, Shuddha Chitte, the Chitta becomes Shuddha, Koroy Udoy, and it awakens. That is why our Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana. We have to simply hear about Krishna. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So actually the Bhagavata process, although it is Durbodham, it is so simple. Because the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is available to us, given to us by Srila Prabhupada. So all that we have to do is to give a patient, submissive hearing. Actually, the process is so simple. We are so fortunate that this Durbodham, most difficult thing, has been made so easy. We just have to be very sincere in our approach, very patient, and give a very submissive hearing. When we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam or when we are reading Srila Prabhupada books, we must always remember, the reading that you do every day 1 hour is not an ordinary thing. It is something which will make you Shuddha, which will give you Amritam Ashnute. So we have to do that reading with utmost attention. Because this is, when you're reading it is a time when you're going to cleanse your heart. You're going to get connected with God. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hriddantastohi Abhadrani. Whatever abhadra, this whole spiritual life is is a struggle to come out of all our abhadras. And here is a simple process. So how much attentively we must hear. Read our books. So Vidhunoti Surit Satam, and we become completely purified. So this is the process, and the process is mentioned here. If you want to attain that love of God, we have to start by surrendering to God. So Bhagavata Dharma is surrender to God, and then you get love of God. Prabhupada writes that the spiritual science, this Bhagavata Dharma, becomes revealed to the devotee from within the heart according to the degree of his surrender to Krishna. So the more you surrender to Krishna, the more, spiritual science is not that something you are attaining, some knowledge that you don't have and you are attaining. Prabhupada is writing the spiritual science becomes revealed to the devotee. Automatically it will come to us. This faith we must have. If I simply do my devotional activities properly, my service, my chanting, my reading, especially Shravanam and Kirtanam, here in the whole chapter we saw how Ajamila got freed just by chanting one holy name of Narayana. That was the power of Narayana, chanting the holy name of Krishna, and you are chanting 16 rounds every day. So imagine the potency that we have with us in this holy name, in the chanting of the holy name. So that faith we must have. So simply by chanting, the heart becomes completely cleansed. So here, the three words, the three characteristics, we'll discuss about that. Durubodham and Guhyam. It is very difficult to understand. We must always remember how fortunate we are. This most difficult thing has been made so easy for us. So Prabhupada writes, because it is very difficult to understand, you need these Mahajanas. Before this verse, the list of the 12 Mahajanas are there. Like in the material world also, if there's something very difficult subject, you need a teacher, right? So the same thing applies for Bhagavata also, and that's how Prabhupada is writing in the purport that you need the Sampradayas. Without understanding it in the right process from the authorized sources, you cannot. You want to become a doctor, you have to go and study under a certified doctor in a certified college. Otherwise, it's not possible. So, if for knowledge of this material world, we have to approach somebody, even for this Bhagavata, we have to approach somebody. Because it is Durbodham. And why it is Durbodham? Why it is difficult? Material knowledge is difficult because, it requires a certain amount of intelligence to understand material knowledge, medical science, technology, this and that. But this Bhagavata Dharma is Durbodham, very difficult because it is Vishuddham. It is transcendental because this is the knowledge not of this material world. It is the knowledge of a spiritual world, of altogether a different world. We with these material senses, which are all defective, we know the 4 defects, with these defective senses, how can we understand the knowledge of a transcendental nature? It is impossible. And that is why the process to understand spiritual knowledge is the descending process, not the ascending process. Like Prabhupada gives the example, if a child has to know who his father is, the ascending process is impossible. You have to go and do a DNA test of every man, 3.5 billion population. It's not possible. But the ascending process, so that is Durbodham, very difficult, impossible. But it becomes very easy if you simply go and approach the authority. Mother is the authority. Immediately he knows who his father is. In the same way, for us, this Durbodha knowledge becomes very easy if we approach the authority, the 12 Mahajanas and the 4 Sampradayas that is mentioned. Otherwise, it is impossible. It is Durbodham. This Durbodha has been validated, has been confirmed by even law 10 lakhs and Kotis. Koti is 10 million and Shata means another 100 million. 1 billion years also if you try to understand Krishna and understand it at what speed? Mano pungivanam. Panthastu koti manaso. Even at the speed of mind, you try to understand Krishna for 1 billion years. Avichintya tattve, he will still not be understandable. See, Brahma is telling this. So trying to understand Krishna is not an easy thing. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhai. It is a very difficult thing. Very difficult thing. So at least so just imagine how fortunate we are. Prabhupada writes, but it can be understood if you approach a bona fide authority. And we are so blessed, so fortunate, we have exactly fallen in the right place. Got the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, so we should not miss this opportunity. This is a very, very rare opportunity. Human life is very rare. Birth in this yuga where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared is very rare, understanding God is very difficult. All these difficult things has been made very easy because of the certain situation. We have taken birth in this Kali Yuga, this golden age where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has descended, Prabhupada has come. The process is so easy. We have come to the right place. All knowledge is available. We should be very, very seriously practicing Krishna consciousness, understanding that we are very, very lucky, very, very fortunate. So, and the last thing that Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada writes in this purport that you have to take knowledge from the sampradaya. If you go to any other sampradaya, go to any upper sampradaya, you will be lost. So I've just got one or two quotes of how important it is to ensure that the knowledge that I'm hearing is in the sampradaya, is what Prabhupada has given us. So Prabhupada has said, he is writing in one letter, your appreciation of my spiritual master is very commendable. Somebody is glorifying Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. One who understands and appreciates the disciplic succession, this sampradaya, is certainly advanced. And we should always be very careful to give full respect to those who have carefully handled this divine fruit of transcendental knowledge before us. See, sampradaya is it's a transcendental system by which the knowledge is coming. The divine fruit, what is that fruit? Love of Godhead, is being handed over very carefully from Krishna to Brahma to Narada to Vyasa like this, and it is coming to us. It has been handled very carefully. And then Prabhupada writes, even a slight change will spoil it. That is why I have always been so careful to give you only those things which I have heard from my Guru Maharaj. So you see, we should be very firmly, attached to Srila Prabhupada and hearing only Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is saying, even a slight change will spoil the whole knowledge. And I have been very careful to give you only things which I have heard from my Guru Maharaj. In another place, Prabhupada is writing, there is no need by any of my disciples to read any books besides my books. And then he further writes, in fact, such reading means reading other books beside my books, very clear. In fact, such reading may be detrimental to their advancement in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes devotees have this, going and reading many books. You see what Prabhupada is saying? No need for disciples to read any books beside my books, very clear. And they may be detrimental to the advancement. He says this, and this he is saying when even the Chaitanya Charitamrita was not released. In 1972, Prabhupada is saying this. And he's saying, I have given you teachings of Lord Chaitanya. What need is there to read Chaitanya Charitamrita translated by someone else? You are right to stop such reading. You see, even Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is our book, translated by somebody else, Prabhupada is saying it should be stopped. If you study Srimad Bhagavatam perfectly, then all your education is complete. You don't require any books to read. You get from Srimad Bhagavatam all material and spiritual knowledge. Not only spiritual knowledge, even material knowledge is available, Prabhupada is saying. Of course, it's completely transcendental, but in that sense, he's saying that all knowledge that you need, you will get it. And you will get all material and spiritual knowledge, and at the end, you will get Krishna. That is the profit. So you get everything. So simply, we have to read again. And devotees sometimes, if they have finished, Prabhupada finished Srimad Bhagavatam, I finished Chaitanya Charitamrita, now can I read this book, that book, this book, that book? No, this is one-time reading. So many devotees have experienced that the more you read, the more you relish, and the more knowledge is revealed to you in the heart. So all that we have to do is to go on reading again and again and again. Not be in a hurry to finish, to jump over to some other books. As Prabhupada is saying, it is so important to read because the words written by a pure devotee carry a divine potency. We have to understand that. When I read the words of a pure devotee, they will completely dispel all the darkness, and it may have a deep impact in the heart, because they are not ordinary words. A last one. Whatever, so some devotees were asking, can we learn something about Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, from somewhere? Whatever is to be learnt of the teachings of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur can be learned from our books. There is no need whatsoever for any outside instruction. So you see, this is just few of the quotes. Like this, there are many, many quotes where Prabhupada is constantly warning, kind of alerting his disciples, please stick to the books that I have given. And if you hear anything from outside, even once he said that if you hear from them, and even if one word they change it, they give you something that I have not given you, it will create havoc in your spiritual life. So we must have that faith in Srila Prabhupada. He is our disciple, he is our spiritual master, we are his disciples, we have accepted him as Janme Janme Prabhu Shei. And he is the one who can give us everything. Prema Bhakti Jahoite. Finally the goal, Dharman, Bhagavatam, what is it? Is love of Godhead. And the Prema Bhakti Jahoite, it is coming from Srila Prabhupada. Every day we sing this song to Srila Prabhupada. He can give us complete love of Godhead. We just have to remain faithful to his instructions. Know that he has given us everything that we need to attain the final goal. And we have to just go on repeatedly reading his instructions. Prabhupada says there is no instruction that I have not given you. If you're not able to find any instruction that you want, you have not read enough my books. And you have to read my books again and again, and you will definitely find all the answers to all the questions that you're looking after. It is there in my books. So these are the things in this verse that, Dharman Bhagavatam is a real religious principle, the most confidential religious principle, the transcendental religious principle. And although it is Durbodham, very difficult to understand, Guhyam, very confidential, transcendental, but we can understand it if we sincerely, faithfully follow a bona fide sampradaya. And we have Srila Prabhupada with us. We should stick to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is our life and soul. His Bhagavata, his books is our life and soul, and we should not go outside of this, and we should just stick to these instructions, and we should have faith that this will give me everything. Thinking that I have not received everything and I can know something more from outside is not right. Another place Prabhupada is saying, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that is written, that simply reading many, many books, trying to gain more and more knowledge, is not the right attitude of devotional service. Those quotes are also there. Because sometimes people think, no, I just want to know a little more knowledge. No, it is not required. CC writes, simply trying to gain more and more knowledge, even in these religious books, is not the right attitude. We have to just stick to Srila Prabhupada. So we'll end here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.